Welcome back, WarCraft grognards. I don't know if you follow all the news about midnight and all the revelations about the things we are learning, about the new things or the old characters we are revisiting in midnight. But some of the recent events, some of the things we have recently seen on the alpha or beta, the way developers use alpha and beta today like really makes those two interchangeable, because what we have available to us, it really is an alpha. It's a beta, but they're calling it an alpha, I think. So it's not relevant if you what you really call it, because it acts like a beta. But anyway, it's an alpha or a beta. It's not why I'm here today. It's because of some of the things that we have seen in the alpha, technically, have raised some concerns. Have raised some concerns about the narrative direction the game is going into, and I have seen comments that were saying that they did not like the direction that Turalyon seems to be going. That Turalyon seems to be heading into a more villainous direction, and they do not like it because he's a good person really deep down, and they do not like it because it furthers this light bad trend. It further pushes this villainization of the light in Warcraft, where it was originally supposed to be this holy, good, perfect force that sometimes so bad people can use it because of their conviction. But the villainization of the light is pushed nowadays to make light feel bad. And I'm here today to address those concerns and about these comments that Turalyon's actions are inconsistent with prior characterization of his or the light. So there are two things to really unpack. There are two things that we really need to get into. And number one is Turalyon himself. People commenting that allege that Turalyon has been a good person before. And while he's presented as a good person, the story treats him like a good person, like a positive character. I don't agree that he is actually a good person in the story. I mean, people who say that also say that the writers do not know Turalyon's character. They did not even read the books. But you know what? I did read the books with Turalyon, and in fact, I am going to read a very short passage from Tides of Darkness. I'm going to read to show you what Turalyon's character is really like. But something this orc, this Doomhammer, had just said had registered on some level below conscious thought, and Turalyon tried to trace it. "Until your world belongs to us," the herd warchief had gloated. "Your world, not our world, or even this world." And that was the answer. He had remembered the dark portal, of course. Khadgar had told him about it when they had first met, while describing the orc menace, and it had been mentioned several times since then. But for some reason the truth of it had never really sunk in, until now. The orcs were not of this world. They were foreign to this planet, to this very plane of existence. They came from elsewhere, and were powered by demons from even farther beyond. The holy light did unite all life, everyone in this world, but not the orcs, who did not belong here. And that meant his task was clear. He was charged with upholding the holy light and using its blazing glory to scour this world clean of all threats from without, and to maintain the purity within. The orcs did not belong here, and that meant he could strike them down with impunity. "By the light, your time here has ended!" he shouted, rising to his feet. and a brilliant glow sprang up around him, so bright orcs and humans alike turned away, shielding their eyes. "You are not of this world, not of the holy light. You do not belong here. Begone!" This passage comes as the final point of Turalyon's character development in the book. Throughout the book, he has somewhat of a crisis of faith. He has his doubts about if he should be fighting the orcs, because the light unites all things. The orcs deserve redemption too. They shouldn't be fighting, shouldn't be killing them. And that crisis of faith caused him to falter in his powers in the light. So his final culmination in this character development in this book is not that. His final culmination is not that. Well, okay, I shouldn't be. I'm not killing innocents. I'm not fighting just civilians. I'm fighting like the warriors. I'm fighting the warlocks. So these guys are actually bad. It's the same as fighting bad humans. I can fight them with the light. No, his realization at the end of his character development in the book is, I am really frigging racist, and I just really hate these just greenskins. I just want to, because they do not belong in this universe. These monsters. That's really his character. Yeah, he had his doubts at some point, but the realization that allows him to connect to the light again, the realization that he grows out of since then, is that he's really racist. And it's not like this book. This book is from 2007. This book is after Warcraft 3, so it's not like this was written. So it's not like it was written at the time when the orcs were still being presented as inherently evil, which was like maybe Warcraft 1. Even in Warcraft 2, which this book is a novelization of, even in Warcraft 2, they were already being given a sympathetic backstory of how they were corrupted by demons. So his justification for murdering orcs indiscriminately is that, one, they were foreign to this planet, so he's not a big fan of immigrants. Two, they were foreign to this plane of existence, which was wrong in the lore even at the point of this writing. And they were powered by demons. Okay, that point I give him. The warriors and warlocks he was fighting were powered by demons. That point I will give him. But then he goes on to say, the holy light did unite all life, everyone in this world, but not the orcs who did not belong here. That is again wrong. Maybe the orcs didn't have priests at the time because it was not part of their culture at the time, but as we see now, the orcs are very well capable of wielding the light because we now have orc priests, which means that the orcs are not somehow removed from the holy light, are not somehow incapable of wielding the holy light and are like an abomination in the eyes of the light. No, it is all about his own bigotry winning over in the end and convincing him that aliens do not deserve to live. That's what his character comes out with at the end of Tides of Darkness. And sure, he had more story since then. He had the whole 1,000 Years War where he was fighting alongside the alien Draenei, so some aliens are good, but which aliens are good? The ones who believe in the holy light. So the aliens who agree with his religion are good, but aliens with a different religion are bad. That's what his character really comes out to in the end. And And in Legion, when we see him again in Legion, when after Illidan destroys Xe'ra, Turalyon somewhat understandably blows up. And he comes with a sword at Illidan, and "You have doomed us all, betrayer!" And it is a little bit understandable, because he did just put like 1,000 years into worshipping and believing in this thing, and this guy had just killed it. So it is somewhat understandable that he would blow up after seeing that. But the problem is not that he blew up, the problem is that he put his faith in that thing for 1,000 years, because that thing clearly did not care much for consent, and it was in the process of forcing someone into its religion. And if I had put a lot of my faith into something, and then I have seen that something try to force itself on someone else, I would be rethinking my choices, not trying to kill the guy that was almost victimized, but wasn't, just because he was stronger. And believe me, I have in real life, I was religious once in my personal life, and I have seen what abuse religion heaps on people, and I didn't blow up against the people who the victims of that religion. No, I reevaluated my life choices. So that's what a reasonable person does when they see that someone they valued, someone they believed in, is doing some really terrible things right in front of their eyes. But so this is really the core of Turalyon's character. He was always a bigot. He was just a bigot who was on our side most of the time. But Turalyon isn't even the most important part of this whole thing. It's about the victimization of, not victim, the villainization of the light. So this is really the second question. Is the holy light being presented as worse than it was before? Is the holy light, is the light being villainized in the current lore? So the point one is that we are seeing the light and people associated with the light do more bad things. That is true. We see some radical things in the audiobook with Turalyon, the 1,000 Years War that I mentioned briefly before. Illyria does see worlds enslaved by the holy light, the whole worlds imprisoned in these crystals, where it shows the radical things the light can go to. And in midnight, like, we are seeing hints of the light starting to doing more bad things. We of course we have seen Xe'ra try to force herself on Illidan. And in midnight, we are seeing what's his name? Lothraxion. We are seeing Lothraxion going out of his way to fight in the Mana Forge and to, like, I don't know how to exactly call it, what he does. Due to his actions in the Mana Forge, things almost blow up, almost risk the lives of his allies, and Lothraxion is being fought and killed in the Mana Forge. So the answer to the question, is light being presented as worse than it was before? The answer is that yes, it is. But does it mean that the light is being especially villainized, being singled out above other forces? So let's analyze how the other cosmic forces are being presented in the more recent lore. I don't think anyone will argue that chaos or disorder or fel is not being presented as bad. Demons and other forces of chaos are one of the primary antagonists of this setting. Demons have pushed the whole setting into motion by instigating the actions of the first horde, of the old horde, and the actions of Khadgar. Everything really sprang from the actions of the demons. So it's no surprise to anyone that demons and chaos and fel are being presented as bad or evil. However, we do start seeing some demons being redeemed. We see the penitent Eredar who are rejoining the Draenei and are the justification for having the red-skinned Draenei. Don't really look like Eredar, but that's another topic. That's the justification we see for the red-skinned Draenei being playable in World of Warcraft. So we are seeing some redemption from chaos, from demons. So chaos is being a little bit redeemed. The other major primary antagonist in the setting is, of course, the void, the shadow. And it is also not a surprise to anyone that it is largely being presented as bad, as evil. And the Void Lords were supposed to be wanting to devour and destroy everything, and now they have all been consumed by Dimensius, who has now been sucked into a necklace by Xalatath, but that's another huge topic that I have actually made a video about, so go watch that. The old gods, of course, sent out by the Void Lords, were one of the major corruptive forces on Azeroth for decades, for thousands of years really, for decades from our point of view. For thousands of years they were the major corruptive force that was trying to corrupt the world soul of Azeroth and was actively corrupting thousands of mortals around the world. But now in Midnight we are seeing some forces of the Shadow of the Void that are being kind of redeemed. We have seen some Dominar, those creatures from the Void, that are being a little bit friendly to us. Not a lot of them yet, because they are the main threat in Midnight right now. So that is understandable, they don't see a lot of them. But we are starting to see some hints of redemption. And we are seeing some hints, some suggestions that the powers of the Void, powers of Shadow, can be used well. They can be used to good ends if you use them well. So the Shadow perhaps is not entirely corruptive. The third major antagonistic force is Death. We haven't really fought servants of Death a lot. We have mostly fought mortals and corrupted mortals using the magic of death, such as the Lich King and the Scourge. But the actual forces of death, when we see Bastion and Moldraxxus and Revendreth, we see that these forces can do good. Ardenweald especially. We see that death can do good, and in fact is almost more good than bad when we really get to it, when we really get to meet them. So while death we have first encountered in the form of the Scourge, it has now been revealed that the actual cosmic force is not the thing that we have thought it would be like. And that I personally approve of very much. Because I prefer the trend in writing and culture. I prefer the trend where death isn't seen as a villain, as an antagonist, because death is a natural part of life, is the natural ending, and we shouldn't be, well, we should be trying to avoid death, of course. We shouldn't be trying to see death as something evil. And it is a trend that is often seen in culture and history. So I do approve of the general message that the actual cosmic forces of death are not necessarily bad. There are some good forces there and there are some bad forces there. Now besides the light, there are two other forces left there. There is, of course, order or arcane. And how has been order shown recently? The Titans are being used in canon as the main force of order, as the main representation of order. And in the recent expansions, we have recently seen that the Titans have done some questionable things. We always had some doubts about whether Titans can really be called good or bad, because we had some things like the signal in Ulduar that Algalon was trying to send out to activate the Forge of Origination and to wipe the world clean just to avoid dealing with the old gods. So we have seen already hints that the Titans were not necessarily very good, but they are really being hit with the villain ball recently, because there are like two major points in the recent expansions. In Dragonflight, we hear that the Titans have infused the eggs of the proto-dragons with order magic against the will of the parents. And that was in fact the whole huge point that sparked the war with the primalists, with the war between the dragonflies we know and the primal incarnates that we were fighting in Dragonflight. And it was a fairly good for Warcraft version of a kind of a morally grey conflict, but it does show us the Titans starting to do some really questionable things. And in the War Within, we hear another story about how Eonar had some sort of relationship with the Loon. It's not clear what kind of relationship, but through that relationship there was the mother tree, the original world tree on Azeroth before even Gahanir. There was the original world tree, and when Amanthul heard about that relationship, he got jealous and he ripped that tree out of the world, and the roots remaining from that tree is what we see in the Haranir parts of the War Within. And I think we also see those same roots in Harandar in Midnight, which they are closely tied to either Azeroth itself or that world tree, it is not perfectly 100% clear which is which, or if they're the same thing somehow. It's not perfectly clear yet, but we do see Titans starting to do some really questionable things in the name of order. Now, the forces of nature or life, of the last cosmic force beside the light that we still haven't analyzed yet, and if we look at them, largely the forces of life have not been given these kinds of negative elements, at least not yet. Although we have, of course, seen the Botany, who are using nature magic, who are acting like representatives of nature, who are, of course, being very radical about what they do, because they treat all animals, such as humans and orcs and Draenei, they treat all animals as just mulch, just things to be consumed to grow their overgrowth further. Although they are not very strictly, very closely tied to nature. So nature is perhaps the force that was the least hit with some moral reinterpretation. So if we take into account what we've seen from the light, we've seen from order, what we've seen from the other cosmic forces, we see that all the cosmic forces are being shown shades of gray, are being shown good elements and bad elements. The previously bad forces are being given some redeeming qualities, and the previously good forces are being shown some rather villainous acts. So what do we take out of this? The clear trend that is shaping out of all of this, what we've seen and what we've talked about here today, the first primary trend that is shaping out of this all is any kind of extremes are bad. The extremes of any cosmic force are bad. And the true key lies in moderation, in the middle of all things. Our material world lies between the six cosmic forces. The mortal bodies are shaped from all the six elements in equal measure. They're shaped from all six cosmic forces in equal measure. The key lies in moderation, that this moderation is good, and the extremes of any force are bad. And it's the same that we see in, say, Diablo, where both the angels and the demons can be bad because they both care about their own forces more, and it is the forces that are neutral, be it the Nephilim or be it the necromancers, the children of Rathma, that are being seen as the most good force in their world. So we see that it is a trend common to Blizzard's writing that we see more of now in WarCraft, that it recommends that moderation between all the forces and not embracing any one force too closely. So the final answer to the question, is light being presented as bad, as villainous in recent developments in lore? The answer to the question is, it is being presented as less good than it was before, but it is not some trend to make light or paladins or their belief system, to make it seem bad, to make them into villains. It is in the service of a greater trend that it is moderation that one should be working for. And could it be seen as the ultimate cosmic version of enlightened centrism, which refuses to take any stances and keeps sitting on the fences? But I do share the belief that any radicalism, any too strong adherence to any one side over the other, can be dangerous if you do not critically think about your own side as well. You have to think about critically about everything you do, even if you think you are on the good side, because everyone thinks they're on the good side. So you have to really think critically about everything you do, and that is what the modern developments of the lore are doing. They are thinking critically about the forces, the cosmic forces that we have been presented with. Well, thank you for coming to my TED Talk, as one could say. It's not a TED Talk, of course, but well, thank you for listening to my rant, to my video essay about the merits of the villainization of the light in recent World of Warcraft, which is probably not a topic that is exactly doctoral thesis material. But well, thank you for coming, thank you for listening to me, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you disagree with any of the points I made, and if you are a religious person offended by the brief anti-religious slant I have put while talking about the light specifically in the middle of the video, please don't forget to leave the comments below, because every comment, of course, helps the channel. And if you enjoyed it, and if you weren't offended, please don't forget to like and subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and I hope to see you next time, maybe with some more lighter material, maybe back to more custom classes, maybe back to more what if, when I specifically write down the scenarios. So, I hope to see you next time.